We've seen it all, from jaw-dropping wealth and luxury that seems like it's straight out of a fairy tale to the heavy responsibilities of leading a country. The Sultan's life is a mix of living in a dream and dealing with the reality of being in charge. He's got palaces, cars, and all the gold you can imagine, but he's also got to make sure his country thrives, facing challenges like keeping the economy strong and making sure his people are happy. But what does the future hold for Brunei and its royal family? It's easy to get caught up in the glitz, but there's more to a country than its riches. How will Brunei navigate the changing world? Can it adapt to new challenges and remain a place where tradition and modernity coexist? And what about the monarchy itself? How will it evolve as the world changes around it? These aren't just questions for the Sultan and his family. They're questions for all of us. Looking beyond the sparkle, what do we see? As we think about Brunei's future, let's remember that wealth isn't just about money in the bank. It's about the well-being of a nation and its people. Diving into the world of the Sultan of Brunei, you've probably seen some flashy headlines or documentaries showcasing his extravagant lifestyle. The media loves to talk about his palace, which is more like a castle from a fairy tale, or his car collection that's so big, it could be its own museum. These stories make it seem like the Sultan's life is all about luxury and excess. But is that the whole picture? The Sultan has a hand in crafting his image too. Through official state media and his own public appearances, he's not just a symbol of wealth. You might see him at important national events or meeting with leaders from other countries. It's a way for him to show he's not just living in a bubble of wealth. He's actively involved in leading his country and making connections worldwide. But think about it. When we see these images or read these stories, what are we really learning about the Sultan? Sure, the glitz is eye-catching, but the efforts to show his involvement in Brunei's affairs add another layer to his public persona. It's like he's balancing two roles, the wealthy monarch and the hands-on leader. So, when we talk about the Sultan in the media, it raises some interesting questions. How do these portrayals influence our view of him and Brunei? Are we getting the full story, or just the parts that are meant to impress or reassure us? This situation makes us wonder about the power of media and image management. In a world where appearances can be carefully controlled, understanding the difference between the spectacle and the real work of governance becomes even more crucial. It's a reminder to look beyond the surface and think about the complexities of leadership and responsibility that come with such a high-profile position. Imagine ruling a country that's super rich because of oil and gas, but knowing those resources won't last forever. What would you do? This is exactly the challenge facing the Sultan of Brunei. He's not just sitting back, he's got big plans to make sure Brunei stays thriving, focusing on sustainability, education, and diversifying the economy. It's about looking to the future, making sure the country's success doesn't just run dry. The Sultan's vision is pretty clear. Brunei shouldn't just rely on oil and gas. So what's the plan? First off, sustainability. This means taking care of the environment and making sure future generations have a beautiful, healthy Brunei to enjoy. Projects that protect forests and wildlife are part of this big picture. Then there's education. The Sultan believes that smart, well-educated people are key to Brunei's future success. By investing in schools, universities, and scholarships, he's making sure Bruneians can learn, grow, and be ready for all kinds of jobs, not just those in oil and gas. But here's the kicker: diversifying the economy. This means finding new ways for the country to make money and provide jobs. Think tourism, technology, and green energy. The Sultan's encouraging businesses in these areas, hoping to make Brunei's economy strong and varied. So, how does this all tie together? It's about preparing Brunei for the long haul, making sure it's a place where people can live well, find good jobs, and enjoy a clean environment. The Sultan's vision is a challenge, sure, but it's also an opportunity to create a Brunei that's about more than just oil and gas. This raises some big questions. Can the Sultan's plans really make Brunei's future secure? And what does this mean for the everyday lives of Bruneians? As we dive into these initiatives and projects, we're looking at a story of transformation, led by a ruler who's thinking ahead, not just about today, but about tomorrow and beyond. When we talk about the Sultan of Brunei, we're not just talking about his influence in Brunei. Nope, this guy's reach goes way beyond that. Picture owning pieces of cities around the world, from luxury hotels in London to prime real estate in New York. That's the kind of global player the Sultan is. His investments in properties aren't just about making more money. They're about having a seat at the table on the world stage. But why does this matter to us? Well, it shows that the Sultan's decisions can have a ripple effect. impacting economies and communities far from Brunei. When he decides to invest in a new project or buy a landmark building, it's not just business, it's a move that can change local markets and even create jobs. And it's not just about real estate. The Sultan also has a voice in international politics and economic forums. Imagine being in a room where decisions are made that affect billions of people. That's where the Sultan operates. He's not just a guest, he's a key player, bringing Brunei's perspective to the table and influencing discussions on global issues like trade, security, and environmental protection. This brings up some interesting questions. How does one person's wealth and power affect the global community? And what does it mean for the rest of us when decisions made in these exclusive meetings shape the world we live in? As we explore the Sultan's global influence, we're reminded that the world is more connected than we often realize. The actions of a few can have a massive impact on many, challenging us to think about how power and responsibility are exercised on the global stage. This whole situation brings up some big questions about leadership and the balance between respecting traditions and ensuring human rights. It's a reminder that being in power means making decisions that aren't always popular, and that leading a country comes with challenges that are as complex as they are controversial. As we've seen in previous sections about the Sultan's wealth and the royal family's influence, everything is interconnected. The way Brunei is governed, how its wealth is used, and how its laws are implemented all paint a picture of a nation at a crossroads between tradition and the pressures of the global stage. What path will Brunei take, and how will its leaders navigate these choppy waters? Only time will tell. In the world of Brunei's Sultan, not everything is as perfect as it seems. The Sultan, despite his immense wealth and power, has come under fire for some pretty serious issues. One of the biggest controversies? The implementation of Sharia law in Brunei, a move that has sparked a lot of debates and concerns over human rights. So, what's the fuss about Sharia law? It's a set of Islamic laws that are pretty strict. In Brunei, these laws include harsh penalties for things that, in many parts of the world, are part of everyday life. This decision by the Sultan raised a lot of eyebrows internationally, with people questioning how these laws fit into the modern world's views on human rights. The reaction from around the globe was pretty strong. Countries, organizations, and celebrities spoke out against these laws, concerned about what they mean for freedom and rights in Brunei. It was a moment that showed just how complicated it can be to balance tradition with the expectations of the modern world. But here's a question. How did the Sultan respond to all this international heat? Well, it's complicated. On one hand, the Sultan and his government have defended their laws as part of their country's tradition and Islamic faith. On the other hand, the backlash has led to some reassurances to international partners that these laws wouldn't infringe on the rights or freedoms of people, especially visitors to Brunei. So, what does this all mean for the people of Brunei and the rest of us? It shows that being part of a royal family isn't just about the glitz and glam. It comes with a heap of responsibilities. From leading a nation to helping those in need, the royal family is deeply intertwined with the life and future of Brunei. This leads to some big questions. How do the royals balance their public roles with their personal lives? And how do their actions shape the way the world sees Brunei? As we dive deeper into the lives of Brunei's royal family, we're not just uncovering a story of wealth and power. We're exploring how a family can influence a nation and beyond, challenging us to think about the role of leadership and philanthropy in today's world. When you think of a royal family, what comes to mind? Crowns, palaces, maybe a bit of drama? Well, Brunei's royal family has all that and more. At the center of this family is the Sultan, but he's got a whole team behind him, including his son, the Prince of Brunei. These folks aren't just sitting around in fancy clothes, they're actively shaping their country and its place in the world. The Prince of Brunei, for example, isn't just chilling at the palace. He's out there, involved in serious stuff like international diplomacy. Imagine being tasked with representing your country on the global stage. That's a big deal, right? It's about making connections, forging alliances, and showing the world what Brunei is all about. But here's where it gets really interesting. The royal family doesn't just focus on politics and power. They're also big on helping out. Whether it's supporting charities, getting involved in education projects, or helping improve healthcare, they're putting their wealth and influence to good use. It's not just about ruling, it's about making a positive impact, both at home and abroad. Yet, with great wealth comes great scrutiny. How the Sultan spends his money, where he invests it, and how much he shares with his people are questions that often come up. It's one thing to have personal riches, but when you're the leader of a country, every dollar you spend or save is under the microscope. The Sultan's financial decisions can sway economies, change landscapes, and alter lives. As we move to the next chapter, think about the responsibilities that come with such wealth. How does the Sultan's financial power affect his role as a leader? Does it enable him to provide for his people in ways other leaders can't? Or does it create a divide between him and the average citizen of Brunei? Wealth can be a tool for growth and development, but it can also be a barrier to understanding the everyday struggles of the people. The story of the Sultan's wealth is not just a tale of riches, it's a complex narrative about the power of natural resources, the challenges of leadership, and the impact of one man's fortune on a global scale. As we delve deeper, let's consider the broader implications of holding such wealth and the delicate balance between prosperity, power, and the people. When we dive into the story of the Sultan of Brunei, we're not just talking about a guy who's well off. We're exploring the realm of unprecedented wealth. Imagine having so much money that your net worth is a major global talking point. That's the life of Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah. The source of this mind-blowing wealth, it's all about what lies beneath Brunei, vast reserves of oil and gas that have been fueling the country's economy and the Sultan's bank account for decades. Brunei might be small on the map, but its wealth from these natural resources is gigantic. The country struck gold with oil and gas, and since the Sultan is essentially the CEO of Brunei Inc., his wealth has skyrocketed. We're talking about a level of rich that's hard to wrap your head around. To put it in perspective, imagine every time you filled up your car with gas, a chunk of that money went straight into the Sultan's pocket. Comparing the Sultan's wealth to the rest of the world puts things into even sharper focus. While exact figures can fluctuate with oil prices and investments, it's safe to say he's one of the richest individuals on the planet. This isn't just millionaire or billionaire rich. This is owning a percentage of the planet's wealth, rich. His financial power and influence stretch far beyond the borders of his small country, impacting global finance, real estate, and even international politics. But what does having this kind of wealth actually mean? For the Sultan, it's not just about living in luxury, though he certainly does that. It's about having the power to shape his country's future, invest in mega projects, and influence global markets. His wealth allows him to play on a stage where few others can, making decisions that affect not just Brunei, but the world. As we dive into the next section, let's keep in mind the world of the Sultan. How does his unbelievable lifestyle impact the way he rules Brunei? Does all this wealth and luxury make him a better leader, or does it disconnect him from the people he governs? It's one thing to have everything you've ever wanted, but another to understand the needs of those who don't. So, as we move forward, think about what you'd do in the Sultan's shoes. How would you balance this life of incredible luxury with the responsibilities of leading a country? It's a question that's not just about wealth, but about power, responsibility, and what it means to live a good life. What's the takeaway from all this? It's that leadership matters. The Sultan's story isn't just about being born into royalty. It's about what you do with that power. He took a country rich in resources and made it richer in ways that count, in healthcare, education, and quality of life. That's something worth paying attention to, no matter where you're from. So, next time you think of Brunei, remember it's not just a small country with a lot of oil. It's a place where leadership has made a real difference. And at the center of that story is Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah, a ruler who saw the potential in his country and worked to make it a reality. It's a reminder that with the right vision and dedication, transforming a nation is possible. Brunei might not pop up on everyone's radar, but it's a country that's got a story worth telling, especially when it comes to its leader, Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah. Picture a place where the wealth from oil and gas is so massive, it's like something out of a movie. This isn't just about being rich, it's about a whole country's journey, with the Sultan steering the ship since 1967. So, who is Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah? Well, he wasn't just born into royalty. He was shaped to lead from a young age. Think about what it must be like to grow up knowing you're going to be the ruler of Brunei. Your education isn't just about history and math, it's about learning how to manage a country's future. That's a heavy load for anyone, but for him, it was his destiny. He studied abroad, got a top-notch education, and returned ready to take Brunei to the next level. When he took over, Brunei was already on the map for its oil and gas reserves. But under his rule, it wasn't just about drilling and selling. The Sultan had bigger plans. He wanted to make sure that the country's wealth wasn't just for the elite, but improved the lives of everyone in Brunei. Imagine having that kind of power and deciding to use it to build up your country. That's exactly what he did. The transformation of Brunei is pretty incredible. With the Sultan at the helm, the country's economy boomed thanks to oil and gas. But it's not just about the money. He poured resources into making sure the people of Brunei had access to education, healthcare, and a solid infrastructure. It's like he was building a safety net made of oil wealth, ensuring that his people wouldn't just survive but thrive. But let's be real, leading a country is complex. Balancing tradition with the need to modernize, keeping the economy strong while making sure everyone gets a fair share, that's a tough gig. Under Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah's leadership, Brunei has managed to do just that. It's maintained its cultural identity while becoming a symbol of prosperity in Southeast Asia. As we dive into these questions, we're not just uncovering secrets about a distant monarch. We're exploring the very nature of wealth, power, and happiness. This is a tale of contrasts, of what's seen and unseen, and it promises to reveal truths that might surprise us all. So, let's get ready to look beyond the riches and discover the real Brunei, a place of beauty, complexity, and intrigue. What we find might challenge our ideas about wealth and what it means to lead a country in today's world. In Brunei, a land dripping in wealth, the Sultan lives a life many can only dream of. But what about the people outside the palace walls? With every luxury the Sultan enjoys, from his endless collection of cars to a palace bigger than some towns, you have to wonder, is the wealth shared? Behind the opulence, there's a nation waiting for its turn to shine. As Brunei faces the future, the real question emerges. Can the Sultan bridge the gap between his fairy tale life and the reality of his people? It's a tale of riches and responsibility, begging us to ask, is all that glitters really gold? In the lush heart of Southeast Asia lies Brunei, a tiny nation where incredible wealth meets untouched nature. At the center of this wealth is Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah, one of the richest and longest-serving monarchs in the world. Brunei isn't just rich, it's a kingdom of unimaginable luxury. Imagine living in a place where the ruler's home is so large and lavish, it seems like something out of a storybook. But the Sultan isn't just about living in luxury. He's been leading his country since 1967, holding both wealth and power in his hands. Yet what really goes on in a place where one man has so much? Sure, we hear about the Sultan's vast collection of rare cars, his private jets, and a palace that's more like a wonder of the world. These are the things that make headlines, the stuff of dreams. But there's always another side to the story. We're about to explore 10 things you didn't know about the Sultan of Brunei. This isn't just a list of his possessions or how much money he has. We're going deeper, looking at what life is really like in a land of such wealth. What does it mean to have everything? Can wealth really make you happy? And what's it like for the people living in the shadow of such a palace? This journey isn't about the glitter or the gold. It's about understanding a man who holds a nation's fate in his hands. It's about the dreams and desires we all share, no matter how much is in our bank accounts. And it's about the questions we're often too afraid to ask. What's hidden behind the grandeur of the Sultan's lifestyle? How does someone with so much wealth view the world? And how do the stories of Brunei and its Sultan reflect on us and our desires for happiness and fulfillment?